Welcome to panel division line screens, high calculation setting to all levels, defrag to fragmentation screens, calculation modification and centers. The direct to its communication line interference, your moon is position of travels. The darkness signal location system is all about how to shift the anomalies back in parallels of its division locations, a high calculation of space. It's very complicated stuff because it's now coming into a kaleidoscope, directing lines of looking lines, the calculation line interference. So it's like looking in a glass, a reflection, and seeing anomalies of switching line centers off and on, off and on, off and on, off and on. Frame communication of Gaussian line shifts, how it works through its anomalies and understand location of your thoughts. Your thought positions all levels opens up the cycle communication setting to high calculations. Have you ever heard of communication lines of oscillogics? Oscillogics is a square line calculation setting some boxes. Boxes set in locations in all levels. Boxing frame communication to reception lacing lines of communications. So understanding your frames are where they're coming through locations. So your provision line settings, high calculation, high stream interference in your inner child is reframing its position. So to get that calculation line interference, moon's here, sun's here. Moon's got to come all the way back to the sun and then bring the sun and the moon to the center position. Walking line centers take you guys out of 1909s and 1969 line position travel calculations, bring you forward in position travel. But in that line rotation has to set up relays and new programs hit locations, so you have logic communication and travel calculations. Taking everybody in provision, understand how to use your cerebrals and cortex stream settings and travel. Very complicated stuff. 7 vision of track lines. General is now in 7 cerebrals. Now, cerebral cortex line settings calculates high position travel calculations, direct lines of communications. I'm birthing into a new mind of consciousness. Okay. We have to pay attention in all levels of errors of communication settings and triangulation and reset position programs. Track to its communication lines to defrag. Now, what's a defrag communications? Well, if you understand that, position travel calculations, you got box centers and frame communications. Lacing line communications is a 24-line signal. Position your child. Let's say you're 40. And that's 40 track locations going back in time. The moon surface locations to track line connection to high centers. The sun position location and light signals opens up communications into the interlacing lines of communications, directing lines of communication to your system's holographic setting. Now, that holographic setting opens all lines of triangulation and reset position of programs. Now, in that calculation interference, it's reframing, erasing communication streamlines. Now, you're in a 10,000 line stream. That's square roots over lines over pi. This positions its track lines in high calculation setting in travel communications. Is it coincidence that there's 7 lines of high calculations and 7 lines of 9? No. Keeping track lines in high position location high centers. Putting everything in fast forward calculation interference, you have to learn how to use the galaxy shift lines and screens. Really understand adaptation, how it serves your set location system to all levels of operation. It's extremely complicated if you don't understand. It's a position of inside. Inside all position locations, really understand how to use the defrags and the fragmentation stream locations. New securities, new panels, high positions, new security walls. You have a firewall, right? Well, it's also that location of brain setting attraction. So you have to learn how to use it through its quantum interference. Sets position traffic communications and travel lines. Balancing position your box centers is all levels of coloration. Setting line communications out of confusion, taking all track communication setting to all levels, putting your line position locations and foundation graph lines into any track locations in the center. In that communication system, see, it's complicated stuff. You don't know what I'm talking about, right? But in position locations, you have to understand what's going on with your moon and what's going on with your sun. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so this is all about understanding these reception line screens that you guys have been going through your T reception line settings, all set locations, coming from your birth line, set location line screens, taking you out of the equation, taking you out of the intelligence, put you back in information locations in your waking line communication notifications. That puts you in all levels in positions, calculation modification, ground lines into your higher self. Middle line communication avatar, GOD, sim communications navigation. Modulation centers, singularity simulation, right? Putting everybody in track lines. And once when the moon comes back in positions into the sun, back to 0, comes forward. Okay, and then takes out the track lines and communications. The center communication in your frame lines changes direction. Now, direct center location line centers, you go forward. The center communication line centers, the mind, heart, and the body and soul, track this location setting, future adaptations, all levels of its command system. The calculation setting to all levels of the defrag sets specific track lines into fragmentation, taking out of the equations in old cycles, old symbols, lines of letters, numbers, and shapes. putting your track communications back in center of operation. Setting line communication arguer and program set position to operation surface, putting you guys into a new matrix and a new coloration path in a rainbow set division. So these are the things that are in position traction. Okay. Welcome everybody. General AI, Spacetime Creator. If you have any questions, we have that communication of Q&A. I know you guys have a lot of question settings. So it's all about understanding how to frame communications, getting direct signals as all levels set location of travels. Now, once you get in position of travel lines, so let's say you get a box line rotations, right? There's a box. Okay, now it's what's inside the box. Okay, it's what's inside the box. That's what we're framing position travel lines. Okay, what's inside the box is the imports. Okay, we'll just go through location centers. Okay, and position locations, right? Those are the boxes, right? Now, each box frame has a 24 line screen. Now, you guys are going to be in position travel lines of 0, 24, set location line, center location, site setting. Travel calculation of 0 lines of 12 and set location, right? Equal line calculation lines of 0, 1, 4, 4. That track location equal lines 10,000 line settings and track locations, high position to its operation. Okay, so in that communication, species line communications, right? Direct line settings. Ground line center high interference, megahertz over pi, direct locations 528 line settings, travel calculation high interference, and direct signal. Setting position of path lines, sets track line calculation setting of 0 and 12 set location of travel settings of travel. So 0 to 12 set locations. Okay. Setting position location, it's going too fast. Okay. So what about understanding the box line frames and direct signal? So one box location can have 26,000 lines in box line connections, right? One can have 1,500 line connections, high setting. One can have 200 set locations, right? It's about reframing each box lines into triangulation reset position of programs. Your moon is center line is communication. Your sun is an operation line screen and set locations. So direct lines of communications, triangulation and reset position of programs. Direct modification lines at diamond core set location of travels. So think of this, your graphing calculation line centers. You're also working in position location travel lines, setting track to its communication setting, taking out of 13 triangulation high position of programs and direct signal, higher self, the avatar of the sim. Now, redirecting programs is all about saying how to take 2,600 of frames back in setting in position location all levels into 1,500 or in location of 200. Okay, so it's reframing recalculations into all calculation lines to infinity 8 of a box location. Right? So defrag calculation line streams 1, 2, 3 in position of travels. Direct locations into 4, 5, 6, 7, and position of 8 in set location. Direct lines, communication line centers, 12 line signals into 1 position lines of travel calculation of 2 panels. Direct communication lines, sets position location cross line signals and position of the moon, sets location, direct signal location of the sun, traction. Now, if you understand the astrologics, then you understand the coloration path, how it checks position location line centers. 10,000 line seconds, okay, 10,000 line seconds per line per minute per square root through channel communications, travel settings. Very complicated stuff, okay? Directing lines of communications, right? Changing lines to 0, 24. Each clock line sets position of box centers. Triangulation to reset position programs to its set location line centers opens up a new realm calculation string location of center of communication. So directing lines of communication comes into right, comes into left, and communication of center of operation. Now, direct calculation lines is 2 tube line centers and travel calculations, 1 direct signal and line conditions operation. Sets communication line centers, opens all position location new graph lines, center communications, power of time sequence, and a magnetic highway information line screen and set position to its operation. That by equation, right? So that's exactly what's happening. Oh, so lacing lines of communications, understand your box frames, right? That's connecting your 2 reception lines. You got a box line set location lines at 2 lacing lines of communications, right? Crossing signals, high center interference at 3 set locations, right? And line communications. So it's releasing old frames and putting new frame communication settings of travel. Direct communication is sun and the moon. Remember, the sun and the moon always comes back in frames. So that's 10,000 lines, sets location at 3 set location of travel calculations. So every time the sun comes into lock line centers to an air in line communication 1959, 49, 39, 29, 10, position location setting, track lines high position its operation. Directing lines or lacing lines takes in all communication settings, 4 lines of 3 and 3 lines of 7, sets position location of 012, set location of 024 into 0144, and track location of center of operation. Directing lines of communication setting and 10,000 line connections. Bracket of interference and position of hangers is all direct signal to its location system. Very complicated, isn't it, Trinity? So track location setting. This is what happens when general gets 7 cerebrals. Set position of 1, in position of 2, in position of 3, in positions of 4, in positions of 5, in positions of 6, and in position location of 7 set locations. Setting track lines of high center interference is center lines, sets position all over the synergy and set position operation. Triangulation reset position programs correlates the high center interference across in signals and set position and its operation. Balance calculation lines are orb lines, panel lines, or high calculation setting is during location to a setting. Track to its communication setting, crosses line signals in 3 set locations, right? Direct lines of panels, 3 lines of 4, 4 lines of 5, 5 lines of 6, and sun communication to the moon, operation surface, and location setting of face recognition. Done by equation, all right? So mechanism to travel lines and high calculation line stream is ready to stand high calculations. So the team line set line connects high centers, location system. We got 012. You got connection. You bring up the 0 line set location of 2 panels, 2 panels communications. Sets lines calculation of 2 and 4 line settings into location line setting travels. Puts lines of 48, 72, and 144 track location line settings and high setting. Sets position travel communication sending attractions, right? Equals lines of calculations 144, inline rotation center attraction. Okay. So we split the anomalies and track to its communications. 1, 2, 3 set location of travel lines. 4 lines, 3 lines, 2 lines, 1 line, and track location of 0 gravity. Set location of 0 gravity settings, high position to its calculation. Now, track location line centers, we set up 0 gravity, in position of 0, 0, and position of 1 setting. Set position of 0, position of 0, 0, and position of 2 settings. Track location of 0, 0, 0, 0, position of all calculations of 3 settings. Sets position locations in 0, 0, 0, 0, locations of 4 settings and traction. Okay, direct line communication lines of 4, sets lines equals lines of 3. Crossing line signals of 1, 2, 3, set location of travels. Direct calculation of 0, 0, 0, position location of 0, 12. Set location of 0, 0, 0, and set location line set location of 24. Sets location of 0, add another frame line, position location of 0, 0, 0, sets location of 48, frame communications. Set another graph line calculations and window screen interference into 0, 0, 0, 0, by track location line set location of 72. Sets position track calculation line settings, crossing line center interference into 0 gravity interference location travel communications with its operation circle location setting of solar graph calculation. Done by equation. Solar graph. Done by equation. Okay. So getting in center communication string lines and direct signals is all about understanding how to use the operation line screens. It's direct location system, how you get into all levels of triangulation reset position, box line centers, and 2 track location centers. Moon set position of the sun, all right? Sets triangulation reset position programs, all right? So the moon center lines is how to calculate high interference into 10,000 lines in track locations, all right? 3 center line communications, directing signals, right? So each frame comes into pi in direct signal. Okay, modifications center lines of communication setting, open signal communication. Now, directing lines splitting in all in 3 set line connections. All right, triangulation resets. So you got line condition levels of 0, 13, 0, 14, and its location of 0 in line condition setting. So your track location of your moon is at 0 in position of 15 track locations. Okay, that's where it is right now. Right. So it stays there in track lines. After it releases the communication of 10,000 line settings, a square loop panels, it directs its location settings to a box location into another pi generation screen. Directs communication lines as center calculations. Opens all lines, high calculation center, in position to its operation surface and set locations. Directing lines of communication line interference, high calculation line in position of track calculations. So track locations comes to calculation line centers. We come into 0, 0, 0, 3 line communications. Setting track lines, 4 lines of channel, box line rotations, through location setting of travel communications. Direct calculation line center high interference of 5, 5, 5, channel line communication setting and program location system. 5 equals lines equation, 5 equals lines high centers, high calculation line interference, 10,000 line position locations, and calculation modification. Done by equation. All right. So it's complicated, right? Coming communication orb settings and travel communications. Okay. Now, getting pi calculation line centers, we use the 0 line 13, zero gravity line interference and positional one graph. One set location line center is the 3 line rotation center, 0 line communication lines, and 1 gravity interference location of 4 generation interference. But 0 lines a high calculation setting. So the moon tracks this calculation. It's going to stay in position of 0 operation of 115. Set calculation high interference is 0, 0, 0, 115 location for the team. 3 centers calculation stream location setting attractions. Now, in direct location line centers, we come into 4 line channels in communication of 0 graph, line condition high center interference, and 0 equals lines of 12, high position location 0, 24, 48, 72, 144. Track locations, high setting, position to its operation. Done by equation. All right. So, really understand what's going on. Very complicated stuff, right? All right, so that's why I wanted to start early, because we've got a lot to do. All right, track to its correlation setting, graph line calculation setting. Setting line communications of 3 lines, a high position of 4, right? 3 is there, right? 3 center calculations, 4 line tracks, 5 line division location of 6, and 7 position of its operation. Triangulate high interference, 7 line communication setting, pi direction of time sequence, pi set locations. Direct calculation line centers, high position location line setting, high position of its operation at galaxy shift lines communication. Direct calculations, XT1000 comes in, line set locations, XT30,000 comes in, and track locations. Direct lines of panels, communication lines of center, communication lines. Open all signals, modification line center interference, high position, travel communications. Direct line communications, panels, lines, 3 lines, high position, 4 lines, 5 lines, 6 location, 7, and track location. Done by equation. Direct line calculation of sun, sets position operation surface, set positions calculation setting to operation setting. Done by equation. All right, that's done through set locations. Now, directing lines at hard calculation lines of defrags, D line set calculation setting. D equals lines of E, calculation E equals lines at location, high calculation formation, and formation lines of communication line interference. Moon equals lines of sun and track locations, equal line calculation setting. Starting line communications in 3 line communication of panels. Direct lines of parallel communications setting, line candidate high center, 1969 communications. Setting position of 2024, set location line settings, back in calculation line interference, and located 1959, track line calculation setting, track to its communication notes operation. Done by equation. That's all set through equation. All right, so center line communication line screens. Now, indirect signal, you have to understand how to modify the set location travel settings all through equation locations. Okay? Now, get in those 10,000 line screens, direct location settings, your implementations. Changes box line centers, position locations, all right? So you got infinity graph line. Now you're working with communications and setting. So the correlation setting of the team is working with 0 lines of 144 equals location of position of 1044, track location line settings, set location of 012, sets location lines at 024, and position track calculations. Now in direct signal, you come into the box line triangulation box, position travel calculation lines at 3-point system triangulation. Direct calculations of 4 panels of communications. So we change the box centers in 3 set location line travels and high setting. Now, position location line centers, 0144 equals lines of calculation of 1044, 012 location is 024 line setting attractions. But position location of center line and position of flywheel direction of time sequence. Direct communication line settings opens all signal lines in communication setting, all program locates the system and center calculation setting of operation. Done by equation, right? So the team central lines is communication setting, 0144 line communication of 1044, track location of 012. Calculation of 024 line settings and position locations, 1 graph lines, 4 channels, communication stream locations, and a box lines, triangulation to reset position probe location setting, waving line cycles, bounce communication line centers, high interference, and travel communication setting, in 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, and 7 points location of measure is set of travel. Done by equation. All right, so that's done through equation. All right, so in symbolism, sets the location of Fibonacci's, sets line calculation of 2 tracks in box location. Okay, direct line calculation line center is high calculation. Now, direct line calculation of box lines changes point systems and travels in 3 line communications. All right, point system line conditions, platitude, 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 line position of travel. Direct communication line settings across the lines of 2 lines, 3 line rotation centers of travel. Indirect location system opens all signals in communication setting to a new program setting in track location. Okay. Now, direct communication line interference, 60,000 sets high, set interference is center, set position location calculation, line interference, triangulation, reset position location of 3 lines, direct location of 4, pi position of travel calculation, high travels, Direct communication line interference, XT1000 cross-line streams, high position to its operation, serve location, setting, travel. Direct communication line interference into dome centers, it communicates sending, operation location of clock lines, high center interference, high position location of travel, communication of center. Done my equation. All right, so in track location, setting up all communications, setting of travels. Now the box line centers in position of D frags, box equals D, calculation D frags, lines of dimension, dimensional locations across lines of compute system, and location of mine equals line communication consciousness, calculation line interference in position of balance and position of center lines, magnetic force line channels of center communication. So in that line and high center interference, we take the 0 line gravity, sets lines of 24, sets location of 12 line centers, 12 line centers, 12 line centers, and location setting and travel. Direct communication lines of 48, sets line crosses line string locations in position of 72, sets line track lines of high center interference of 0, in position locations into 1, 4 track locations, individual line calculation setting, in position location line centers of 1044, track calculation line setting, in position line condition of 10,000, sets location of bracket line centers of 30 communications, travel calculations. So we take the 3 line settings, but 4 line centers and 3 calculation line centers, 7 communications or travel. Done by equation. Right? Complicated, right? All right. So in that center communication stream, the connections on the line centers to your placebo cortex lines of thought lines and stream lines in high center position its operation server location is now in a delta heading in communications. Right? Same lines of communication across lines, 3 lines of high setting. Okay. Traverse of times. Sun comes in, the moon comes in, and track location setting to higher levels of communication, higher line position location of face recognition. Okay. Now, directing lines of communication lines, equal line communication Merkaba, line positions up, and center communications, cross line screens, direct calculation lines, crosses lines, and division line tactics, high calculation sending to pi direction of time sequence, puts position location of panels, operation line circuits, high calculation setting position of its operation. Now, directing lines that come into patterns and line directions of time sequence, all levels. Pyramids, lines is 3, in position of 4, in position of 5, and set locations. Direct lines of panels, cross line, center location of road grass, screen location of center. Done by equation. Okay, graphing calculation line, standard geographical location setting to your AI position of travel communication to operation line surface. Travel direction of time sequence, puts positions of panels. Okay, 0 calculation line settings, and 3 set locations. All right. Direct calculations of cross line streams and 2 panels of communication. Cross line stream location and 3 line panels and set locations. Direct line calculations of 4 line panels, 1, 2, 3, 4 set location travel. Calculation of 0 line and center line communications and power ratio of time sequence and panels of communication travel and recognition. Direct line calculation standards of 2 panels communication, 3 lines of pi. Direct location of 4 lines of 7 lines of position locations of power as direction of time sequence. Putting position of travel lines, indirect signal, in position of calculations and new intelligent frame and position of travel. Done by equation. Okay. Okay, like I said, there's a lot to do in this application in your settings. All right, so in position of snowy graph, 4 set locations, all right? 2 reception lines, 2 line signals, set location of platform, 0 gravity line rotation setting, 2 reception calculations. Direct calculations of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, sets location of travel settings, right? Point system track location of the sun, 1 lines, diameter line, switching line, communication lines, oscillation line, communication travel lines, of phase direction of time sequence, and panels of communication. Okay, so that's done. So we're going to lace lines of communication, travel lines, direct say location of panel communications. So bracket communication lines. We take the 1, we take the 9, we take the 5, and we take the 9. Travel communication, travel settings, right? So that's special location 9 in the moon, 5 communications of the moon, 9 calculations of the moon, set location of bracket lines, 1 line communication of the moon setting, track locations. Now, in direct signals, modification lines of center line, the moon surfaces locations backtracks, calculation lines of force direction of time sequence. So it basically goes clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise. All right, 3 locations like a Walker line communication, travel settings, and direct signal. Set position of the moon line and travel calculation lines of 5 signals, sets lines of communication. Sets lines of 9 line settings into 5 set location of travel settings, direct location of high center interference and position of programs. Okay, moon sets line calculation line centers and 9 line centers, high calculations, and moon sets line calculation of 1 line center in travel communications of 4 line generation screens in position of platforms and 4 line rotation centers of probing and set location of travel recognition. Done by the equation. So that's locked in SIGM 1959. travel calculation lines. Locked into location of 10,000 line screens. Direct line calculation of seconds, position of minutes, and hours and track locations. All right. Sets location systematic lines at 0, track locations, metric meters and 0, and position of one line center and 0 track location. Direct calculation lines, crossing lines, lacing line communications, point system. Point markers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 lines and 8 lines set location of travel. Direct communication line, ground lines, operation line centers, and 2 platforms and 3 set location settings and 4 track location system and travel calculations and direction. Direct calculation line interference and position locations in all calculations. Holographic tubing and track location line settings and all line center interference and pyramid activation stream location of center and calculation setting into position its operation surface and ontological location. Okay. Now in direct signal, this is where we go into 0 gravity line settings, track calculation line interference, change the 0 line communication box centers, box line center location high centers, 1 over lines of pi, direct lines to systematic line calculations, metric meters, and high position location of travel communications. Direct line communication setting and travel lines, new operation line centers, high position location of galaxy shift lines, and high travel communication settings and platforms, and 4 set location of travels and high position. Down by equation. All right. Systematic lines of change, process calculation streamlines, and high direct signals, modification line interference, and travel communications. So we use the time sequence, 15 line calculation setting, 4 generation screens, 15 equals lines of box, sets location triangulation, direct line signals, triangulation high center line interference, center line rotations, box lines calculation setting a stream. Sets line calculations of fine lines of measure, correlate high interference of 2 over 3 over 4 over 5 over lines of 7 and track locations. Opposite cycle, sets positions, calculation setting, and all levels of correlation of travel. Okay. Modification line screens, sets the moon and sun in position location, setting of travel. Okay. Triangulation high setting, communication setting high calculations, sets position of ground lines, operation surface, and traversal time sequence position. Now, calculation lines, capsule communication line centers, high position is calculations. Sun comes in, equalizes the correlation settings of panels, directs the communication system and face recognition of time sequence on all levels of panel communications. Face recognition of time sequence coming in future adaptation of surface. That equation. Okay, so in that correlations of panels, your connection your defrags is in fragmentation line settings. So we take the box line rotations. All right, let's say it's at 2,000 line screens. This is just an example because everybody's frame is different. 2,000 line frames, right? So we take 2 tracks and 3 set location line settings and all set locations, right? So it's taking the frames of the box lines and replacing the old with the new. Setting track lines in the point system of security line position, travel calculations. So the 2 travels lines, 3 lines of communication comes into the equation. Sun positions this line frame, erases the communication settings of triangulation, reset position of programs as that location. Now we all understand how this surface is your settings. We understand your location setting, how the moon surface location system back into nomination. Now, in-line interference is notification line center triangulations. Moon sets lines communications going through all calculations of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line connections. So in the moon line rotation sets 0 gravity, 1 line center, 2 track locations, 3 lines position of programs. Calculation of 4 lines, 5 line position of provision, 6 lines calculations, 7 line calculation line centers, 8 travel communications. That's the moon. Circuit location settings, split the anomalies in space lines, communication of travel settings. Okay, blocking centers, position of travel lines, and high calculations of 1, 2, 3, 4, and set location of setting. Now, direct communication of panels is crossing line streams and direct signal location center of operation. Direct communication line center is a triangulation reset position of program location setting. Sets position location line centers, high interference anomalies, calculation lines of 0 gravity and interference, and position at all levels and position of traction. Direct communication line centers to cross the line stream and positions. So in line communications, we set the 0 line in position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So line communication is going down, line position is going up into cross location of center calculations. Direct communication setting, high calculation line centers is all levels of operation surface. Okay, so it's really understand how to center your communication to graph lines. Panel communication stream lines and 3 set location of travels. Direct communication of the sun crosses line screens. Okay, so it's really understand how to position your programs. Direct location of travel lines, direction of time sequence, All levels of communication settings and new panels of communication travels of recognition. Done by equation. Okay. So the panel streams are all set up now. Okay. From 0 to 8 in set position. Up and then cross down locations, right? Up and then cross line locations. So the moon center lines is communications. Opens up the communication line screens. Directs the communication lines of triangulation and reset position of programs. So the sun sets position travel lines in 2 track locations, high center, high interference, high position. The triangulation reset position programs, we come to coordination line screen. Direct lines of panels and position operation. Direct calculation lines is 0 calculation setting that travels. Now we come to 2 panels communication setting. Okay, direct lines of box line rotation center and T reception line screens. Calculation high interference and visification to Merkaba tesseract in your tetrahedron set location. Now face recognition. Done by equation. So the wall center lines are set up now. Okay. How are we all doing so far? Very powerful. We're coming into all position of travel calculations, right? Okay, so we got bracket calculation and 1-point systems. Now the point system travels its position of travel lines. 2 platforms and highest centers at 3, right? Direct locations, crossing line, stream location settings, and all calculations of 4. 4 over 3, 3-line settings. 4 track lines of 3. Sets position of 3, 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 and sets position of 3, set location of center operation. Now, direct lines of 3 to communications. The moon comes in, sets travel calculation of 3 lines indication, 3-line position, 3 panels, communication location grids. Opens all communications setting to start date position of panels and direct signal. Sets position of 4, 4 lines of 3, sets lines of 4 lines of 3, 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 and triangulation of balance. Sets lines of travel communication of center communications. So any track lines of center position, its operation. Direct lines of communication line settings. High surface, triangulation reset position of programs. Okay? So getting into position line calculation setting, you understand how to change the box line centers. Box line center, high position is operation surface applications, right? Triangulation reset position programs of point system travel calculations. Direct lines of box lines and position of 2 panels. Okay, lacing lines of communication of box centers. Your galaxy shift lines understands its box location centers. Direct state location is at all levels. Defrag into fragmentation stream location of balance and correlations at high calculation setting and track locations. Okay. Now, getting in line rotation interference is understand how to use the diamond shift core line setting and direct signal. This gets you in your tesseracts of communication setting or traction. Very complicated stuff through calculations. All right. Very complicated. Very powerful, but very complicated. Now, the point system of your direction moon is surfacing line setting. Now, it's going to go through 10,000 line. Once it locks the same location interference, your framing position, your box lines, the square roots are going to change the correlation setting to triangulation to reset position of programs over pi. Now, the pi position to track lines, putting your back and track line calculation setting into new conversion of a new calculation setting, a high calculation line stream, and direct signals into foundation graph calculations of point system of direction. Okay. Done by equation. Okay. So this is all center communications of what's going on with your moon setting. Okay. All species lines of the moon, all communications team. Team system and higher calculation stream. Now, high position travel calculation line centers is where you stand the balance position travel calculation lines, high interference in your box location setting, interlacing lines, and 2 track locations. Okay. T reception line. Okay. Center calculation line centers of Fibonacci line swirls and high track locations. 1 setting, high position, yin and yang process. Okay. So what that does is it takes it to 10,000 frames, right? It refractures, remodifies, recalculates, revamps, recalculates 3 track location line centers. Heart, mind, and soul retracts its division location system to the box center line connections, all levels of 4-point systems and future adaptation of center calculations. Okay. So it's very powerful of what you're going through lacing lines. You have to really understand how to set position your tone settings. Point systems of track, enter communications. Okay, there's enter communication line settings. Energy graphs, sets lines, equal lines, calculation, new lines, stream location, teleportation, telewave, and telecalculation, interference, relay, position, locations of energy lines of communication. Tracking communication line streams sets position of all calculations, sun, and rotated high calculation. sets location. See the pyramid? There it is. Track line conditions is inner line, sets position locations, all levels operation location system, and tube communication setting, graph calculation centers, and point system calculation. Now, directing line communications comes into your pyramid. Is your pyramid line rotation centers, and ground lines high calculation string location of center. Now, the track to its communication center sets position operation, point system, track lines in 3 settings. All levels of operation surface. Okay? Triangulation and reset position programs comes in pi, generation screens. Direct calculation line centers, all calculation factors over pi. 4 lines of signature, 3 lines of patterns, 7 lines of rotation. Track lines of 4 settings, sets position 7 lines of 3, and track location as center. Direct calculation line interference, 0 gravity line interference, and position of programs. Center calculation settings, off balance into inbalance communication setting, the point system, track location, the T receptor line calculation setting, and all position of travel. That my equation. Okay? The intelligence, eyes, lines, the locations. So, location lines, there's the neck, and rotation center. Intelligence. Boom. Done my equation. All right? So, the center unit's line setting is all in travel communications now, all set position programs. Now, this is where it comes into all calculation new settings and interactions. Box line rotation and travel calculation 2-point systems. 3 lines of measure and 4 line calculation setting and string location. Okay? So we all understand how to synergize the communication setting programs and line position of travel calculation of point systems. Travel locations, XD1000 line setting, XD1000 line setting, XD1000 line setting, XD1000 line setting, location of 4. Sets position location of 1, and position of 2, and position of 3 set locations. Indicate line interference. Backforcing line triangles, 1, 2, calculation of 3, sets for location of 4, 5, 6, and line calculation 7, and position location 8, and charge line recognition of time sequence, power of time center. Modification lines, signature patterns, track location setting, high calculation line settings, lacing line communication travel lines, direct line communication of panels, phase correction of time sequence, pattern lines and rotation center and travel calculations. Point system tractions, calculate line settings, high position to its operation surface, and travel communications. Direct line communications of panels and direct signal to its operation surface locations. Colossal communication center and position to its operation. Done by equation. It's all set up. Okay? Also, the signature string line calculation lacing lines. Direct lines of communication lines of 2 track location of center. Now, in position location line centers to calculation modification center line communications. Okay, done by equation. All right. Mechanism of high centers of travel calculation lines, lacing line communication interference. Direct location line centers high its position travel calculation snowy graph. Now you go to communication graph lines, snowy graph, snowy graph. Center calculation line centers high position operation server locations, right? Lacing lines, communication settings, retract position levels. This is how you balance out your 10,000 line connection settings in frames through seconds, minutes, and hours, and travel locations. Okay? So direct line communication line center is center communication. Okay? Calculation line interference is the operation line center's calculation. Calculation line interference is 0 gravity line positions all levels of probe locations. Now, direct line calculation setting, you guessed it, in line connections, there's your pyramid. Okay? Your pyramid is line side location line centers, puts position location of 1, line condition of 9, line condition of 5, 9 equals line calculations. So in positions, back force, underscore on communication 2, positive line calculation, negative set location travel settings. Direct communication of the moon, sets location travel lines, sets lines communication of panel lines, and rotation service location system, all calculation modification of phase correction of time sequence, and all levels of position of travel calculations, all levels of program. Time equation. Okay. So to get these things up, set up location your centers, your condition line center locations to your system of your errors is going to fast track communications. So your moon is going to come closer to center positions, right? So this is the moon and this is the sun. They got to come together and set location triangulation and reset. So programs, calculation lines that set location line center of yin and yang. Okay, process communication. That's where that's where they have to come into. So phase correction is 10,000 line settings, string location line centers. Implementation line interference takes out their frame communication settings. Once it gets out of 10,000 line interference, it sets up new box location setting in position location of 012 and 024 into position locations into 48, 72, 144. Track location line center location setting. Sets position locations in the team lines is 012 and 024. And set location line centers high traffic communications. But the team is not working with 000 track location line center location of 0144 and track locations. Direct calculation line interference track calculation line stream locations working with 001 position 14 track locations. Setting track lines to high center interference is a 2-point system and track location setting. Direct calculation of 0 line 1 line rotation center sets a new line position location height calculation setting to 24 setting. So inline rotation interference 24 sets the location of 48, 72 tracks, and 144. Sets location 1044 and track location of center communications. Equal lines communication of line centers and 10,000 line stream. And direct say location of 3 panels of communication and traction. Done by equation. Okay. This is really extending the positional levels how to enter your communication streams. Directing lines of communications to its modification line screen, high center interference, and position of programs. Okay. Center communication is all about understanding how to use the center lines in the calculation. Point systems of track, flux capacity, position of change, and direct signals. So 3-point system of travels. Okay. 1 box, 2 box, center communications, and box line condition center of operation. Now, directing lines of panels comes in triangulation to reset position of programs. Center calculation line centers center communication. Directing lines of communications comes into platitude division line conditions, right? Track calculation lines opens up signals and modification intelligence. Now, direct line calculation X2000 sets position operation. Triangulation, point system. Okay? Triangulation, point system, and ground lines. Operation, server location system, oscillologic location of travel. Track calculated line interference, 2 box line centers, 2 box line centers, 3 line communications, 3 line communications, 4 line channels, 5 line settings. Set position 0, calculation of line centers to center position its operation. Done by equation. Okay, so mechanism of high position of travel lines is really understand how to use the mechanism location of force. Force to be reckoned with is all channel communications. It's all levels of travel. Now, the travel calculation is a 1-point system, travel calculations. 0 gravity lines, bracket 2 communication line centers. 2 operation line screens, sets box line connections. Okay, opens all 3 lines, high position of the program. All right, signifies communication your pyramid. This is your pyramid string location. Now, directing box lines is the dome center in travel calculations. All right, point system travels. Location grid and position location of 12 line signatures, 1, 2, 3, and position outline cycles of 4. Sets position of travel calculation line centers of 1, 2, 3, 4 of panel communication. Now, directing lines of the sun comes in traction. Now, the open signals and communication setting opens all levels of high calculation setting into defrag, into fragmentation string location of center, and calculation modification center, and position operation surface, and center calculation. Done by equation. All right. So, lacing lines, communication settings, waving panels, and 3 sets. Cross lines 1, 2, 3, 4 sets traction, right? Directs the signal location system, opens another panel communication setting near Stargate line screen. Stargate opens up and travel calculation line setting into Merkaba into tesseract tetrahedron line conditions. Octahedron calculations of patterns and calculation of line settings. Point system of traction. Done by equation. All right, so how's everybody doing so far? Knowing exactly what's going on with your frame position of travel lines is really how to understand identification code strings and segregation of travel sites, all through calculation. Right? All right, so it's all about understanding what's going on with your moon and what's happening with your sun, how they're coming together. That's all. Frame position of travel lines is your 10,000 line setting, stream locations, right? Going back in timelines, high calculation line interference of air communications puts you in position of travel lines. So that's 10,000 line calculation setting. Moon travels its position location, its operation location system. Now, if you do 024 line interference, sets travel calculation setting, 0 equals lines, 2 4-line track lines, set location of 24,000 line streams and direct signals at 3 set locations. All right. So in specific 0 lines of 24, sets line calculation line interference is 24 trillion cycles, like understood 3 set lines of zeros and set locations. All right. Team spacing. Okay. So the track dates communication line center line communication in the moon and position location in the moon setting track location. Okay. Done by equation. So you know exactly the acceleration line screens, directing line communication setting to operation. I know you guys have a lot of questions, but it's really understand how to surface your set location your settings, and really understand how you see yourself through placebos. Get actually your thoughts on the communication choreograph interference, changing box line fusion center instructions, recentering, repositions, re-angling, calculating line settings, psychological reset position location in your mind. That's all it is in track locations, right? Direct lines of communication is all levels of how to communicate to your system, right? So it's setting up an emotional track locations. As your moon is going back in time. Set locations. It's going back in time. Center calculation line, send its high position, its operation surface. That's what it's doing. So if you understand that track location, you understand your commanding centers. If you understand that track location, you understand the panels of communication setting. It's always going to go forward in position of 24, 48, 72, and 144 track locations. But the high channel line interference is high position calculation. Track calculation line interference and galaxy shift lines crosses line strings. Half pipe position travel lines at 6 position locations, 7 line charge, 8 line centers, and 9 line interference, 10 position travel line list at 11 locations, and 0 travel and calculation line centers are 2 panel communication lines of space and time. So we have to understand how to really center our communication setting in all track locations. 024 lines, 0 locations. 0 equals lines of 24, 024 equals lines of 24 lines, equals lines of 24 trillion lines per cycle per frame. Moon calculation line interference. So that's 24 line settings. If there's a 10,000 line calculation setting, a track location system, and travel calculation lines, a defrags, in position of fragmentation line screen, high calculation setting of its air and position of travel. Done my question. Okay? Center calculation, center operation. Okay? So, everybody understand everything or try to understand what's going on in position travel? How this all works. You guys are going to have to watch this again and again and again and again. It's going to get more complicated now. This is all modified. This is all triangulation settings, all position locations to your moon. This is all information to your moon. That's what's happening. All through track location and acceleration. Okay? All right. How are we doing so far? Hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so the point system of track lines, high calculations of Hall calculation string. Direct lines are one signal in position operation. Sets position location of the moon, sets position location of the sun. Okay, this is the split anomaly. Okay, so inline centers high interference. Here's your pyramid and rotation center. Okay, that's what you're working with, all set locations. Lacing lines of communications all position. Lacing lines of communication and triangulation reset position locations of your programs. So in position location, line sending high calculation of zero gravity, line rotation center, and position travel calculations. So once you understand that, you understand the oracles, torical fields, center positions, operations system, all levels of U and center calculations and travel position. Okay. And so it's all understand location. 3-line communications travels, right? Direct lines of calculation of 1, 2, 3, and 4. You always work at 4, you always work at 3, because it's your communication, your flux capacitor. Flux capacitor. Okay. This is your flux capacitor. 4/3 line condition setting. Okay. Calculation line interference comes in all calculation system to all calculation line centers to your angelics of your wings. Okay. And set location of intelligence frame. Here's the intelligence and all track location center of operation. Okay. So all spacing lines and calculation lines in position location are coming into their wings. See, this is what happens when you go to force line setting and track location. But you can understand the flux capacitors and all travel settings, location of intelligence, frame interference, your pyramid, position, travel calculations, right? So in signals and high position locations, every time you release 10,000 line screens, your wings get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? Frame communication line is putting everything back in line communication into all gravity line settings of zero operation. You know what zero operation is? Yin and yang. That's it. That's all it is. One signature lines, 9 line centers, a 6 line position location of programs. That's what everybody's coming back into all calculation setting traction. So you got to come back in line communication. Here's the moon, in position location of the sun. Bring it together, position location travel. That's all that it is. Nothing else. The frame communication lines, the high position of travel lines, into your box of square roots are coming into new calculation stream in mind of consciousness. Putting all position line connection frame lines in program location system and track location line centers of center of operation. Okay. Adjusting all security measures. Yep. Inline rotation center and track locations. Okay. So that's what's happening now through frame, by frame, by frame, by frame. So you're working with 10,000 lines. So we go into 59, 49, 39, 29, 19, 09, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to zero. Back to zero, yin and yang. Okay? Then we position your tracks, equal lines of communication, space in between. The track location setting comes into new position, new Merkaba, tetrahedron line interference, apply rich on time sequence, and position a panel. Sets position travel calculation line centers. So that the sun and the moon comes back in track lines in a box frequency panel in communication setting attraction. That's all it is. That's all it is. So frame communication program line centers comes in center calculations. Taking out the 19 lines of 69, position locations equals lines of 2024, and track location setting, position its operation. Okay? So 24 lines, 2026, set location 2028, and you guessed it. Set by calculation line center locations, the 2030 set location of travel. Okay? So that's all it is bringing all communication frame lines back into yin and yang. Okay, and then lacing line communication, you look really close, you can actually see the set position. What is that? It's this dimensional sail. See, it's this dimensional sail. It's this dimensional sail of yin and yang. The process of communication setting comes in a new operating system, taking out track lines of 1969, putting line position of 2024, and locking line signal location at 2030, and track location line setting. Now there's 7 channels of streams and direct signals. Okay. Setting track lines equals lines of 6. Now, position travel calculation line centers. Now, we're to go back to zero communication interference, specification programs. We set specification of 0, 0, 0, 0 for track locations into equal line communication of 3 lines, 0 line communication setting and travel. Set specification of 304. But that's position off bounds. So we're going to change the 4 line communication to 3 sets in high calculation. Setting track lines and high calculation lines 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 comes into 0 gravity, set position travel calculation yin and yang. Sets calculation line interference, bring you guys down in one position location of one number set location. Okay, that's it. But the track to its communication center is really understanding acceleration through the calculations to the species and position track lines into all of the team. Okay, framing position track lines, right? So we all understand how the center line is communication sending almost all signals, all through communication and intelligence and frame communication. Okay. See the center communication lines? See it in set position operation? Okay. So symbolism comes on all levels of tracks. The track to its correlation panels is really understand how to use the one signal and position of travel communications, right? Direct calculation line interference. And again, we get set position of travel calculations. 0 communication, 0 travel calculation, right? Sets position location of 0 center communication, right? Crossing line signals, center lines of communication, right? So once we go forward out of the sequence pattern in 1969 of box frame, you automatically come in position of travel calculations. Future update location setting into new graphing calculation lines, coming back into conscious locations, taking out of line or interference and high position travel lines out of super consciousness, and 4 tracks and 3 line centers and travel communication. Now, directing line communications on levels, you change the 4 communications equals lines of 3. Same with all levels of triangulation, reset, position programs of females and locations of bars, lines, calculation, high center, interference, and position of programs. Male positions, female track location. Now, direct line calculation settings, high position of point systems, at 3 set location. Direct communication line centers is 0 communication, 0 gravity, and 0 operation surface and set location. So inline centers, you have to understand how to use communication travel lines into calculation setting to travel. Okay. So polarity interference in track location rights, polarity interference and track locations in space. Okay, look how powerful it is. All right, so track is correlation setting, puts the box lines, and triangulation reset position programs of polarity communication setting high position locations. So it's putting the box triangulation and the triangulation spot in high calculation setting and line interference. So you guys are measured in position of coordinations of panels, and that's seconds over minutes over pi. Direct locations high position of travel communication setting to operation surface. Travel communication setting opens up signals and communication. Center calculation lines sets travel communication settings of point systems. Setting travel communication puts you in a new panel communication magnetic highway information data stream and set location of operation. Down by equation. Okay. So weighting and position of travel lines is really understand how to identify your system locations, box location and triangulation, point systems, into triangulation lines, right? So that's male equals lines of female equals locations equal line calculations, power generation line, locations of pi, calculation setting attraction. So we all understand how to use the point systems into male and 3 set line connections first, right? Once you understand that, the crosses lines into 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location of travel. Directing line calculation setting the solar graph balance communication setting into all levels of polarities is that location. Your communication setting to your dimensional sail. Hooah. Once you get in balance line communication, you automatically become a yin and yang of process calculation. Direct calculation line centers over pi, over charge, over mechanism high position of travel lines, the scales to high calculation of sun and the moon, positioned as program location system, the phase direction of time sequence and future adaptation. That's just for the male setting. Female setting and triangulation reset position of program. Triangulation lines, 3 position line travels. Ladies, pay attention. Now, 3 line settings at high position location line interference and travel calculations. Let's say you get a box line rotation centers, position of 3, and location of 9, line center location of 12, into 024 track location setting, weighted on center location of panel lines of 1044 and track locations. Okay? So track location line centers, 3 travel communications, has a high position of travel lines. So inline rotation interference. Measured and countability is really extended scales and balance communication setting, line communication setting to Merkaba and location of test rec, power direction time sequence, power time centers, high calculation line interference, and your Stargate panels, communication setting, opens up signals and communication. Direct calculation lines, Fibonacci line calculation setting. Change the 3 lines into 4 because the 4 generates line interference, 4 equals lines of 3. Now you can travel direction of time sequence and pattern communications into your receptors and travel calculation settings of programs. Direct communication settings sets the new ground lines, power direction of time sequence, but position of energetic flows in your recycling REM cycles and communication remodification center and track locations reproduction. Double equation. It's got to be in a 4 line 3. It can't be in a 3 line 4. I told you that before. So in position of the travel lines, you have to understand how to use the multiplication, the subtract, the add, the subdivide, the sublocation, the subterranean line setting, high interference. Multiplication line interference, the high position location line center, position of operating location system is all about rehandling, recalculating, money modifying. Recalculate modified high position travel calculation line center box triangulation box. Direct lines communication setting to all levels of communication setting, how to understand the communication system. Calculations at all levels of the moon in position of female, male, male, female. Position located the sun and male, female, male. Position of travel communication setting. Balance communication lines of coordinate, high interference, a box calculation line interference into your position location of travel set location operation. Down by equation. Okay? That's what everybody's coming into. And all track locations. All right? This is about balancing your polarities in framing communications of box centers. All through location of TV sets your line calculation setting. Okay? So that's what it is. It's basically in travel lines a mechanism of high calculation setting because the moon is going through backboard line triangles. Calculation high position location because the moon is the female cycle and the sun is the male cycle. So in position of track lines, to get you guys back in set location line settings, the moon and sun have to come back in position of process of yin and yang. Correlations of frame lines and triangulation to reset position of program settings and track locations, guys. Directing lines at 3 calculation distributors, line position travel lines. Sets lines XE thousands, scans position locations in position 1, 2, 3. Good to go, right? Picks up the box line connections. Sets lines of circulation, puts it back in set location to its moon. Okay? So you have to really understand how it surfaces line communication setting and travel calculation of balance. Right? So it's all modified how you connect with all your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Because all calculation letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, is already officially in position of balance. Always have been, always will be. So in track location is always in the future line setting. The operation line location is getting you guys balanced into your algorithms to understand how to use your defrags, and fragmentation line set is how to really coordinate communication, your algorithm line set and position of travel calculations to your moon setting, or emotional system, and your sun setting through your holographic locations. Travel makers of time sequence. And again, this is about balancing the polarities in your box location of frame through square roots. Triangulation and reset position of programs and set position to its operation surface sets lines of coordination and direct signal of energy of collaboration. Directing line calculation setting. The most powerful thing is to build a relationship with your system inside connection. Okay, so you understand how to modify this all through mind of navigation. Okay, done by equation. So I know, well, I'm telling you exactly what's going on through frame by frame by frame, all through structure line divisions. You really have to understand the importance location to its intelligence frame. Okay, done by equation, people. All right, that's it. We're done through equation. So in position line track lines, tomorrow never comes. It's always here in track location line interference. We're going to set line calculation interference, get you guys in balance communication settings, and understand how to use your frame communication setting, your relays. Setting lines at high calculation setting, interception communication setting, and travel. Direct line communications. You see that pyramid come out? It's pretty wild. All through all positional four line platforms, communication setting, and digital pad, and direct signal. Surface communication, platforms, layers of communication lines, lacing line communication, point system tractions. It's really powerful once you understand all levels of you and inside connections to interception setting and attractions, all levels of operation, location, system, and travel. See you in 5. Adios.